Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this information session on the Partnerships for Development Innovation Branch's Call for Proposals process. My name is Paul Sampson. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister in this branch. We wanted today to provide you with an update today, particularly on the Calls for Proposals process, which is the primary mechanism of our branch. The use of Webcast technology is a first for the branch, so please bear with us should we experience any transmission delays. We expect that this will lay the groundwork for future technology-mediated outreach with you, and we welcome your feedback on how this works today. Following my remarks, I will be passing the microphone on to my colleague who will provide some guidance on the details of the process and the application forms. We will then have a question and answer session. You are invited to pose written questions about the calls process and application form through your Participate button on the screen. We will respond to as many questions as time permits. We have a total of 1 hour for this session. If we don't respond to your question in this live session, we will respond afterwards in writing and post the responses on our website. If you have questions that are specific to the calls for proposals that are currently open, please submit them through the channels identified on the department's website. We will then post the answers to those questions on our website in the frequently asked questions of that specific call for proposals. Those questions can be submitted up until 2 weeks before the call closes, so please carefully note those posted dates. This way we can ensure that information is available to all potential proponents at the same time to ensure an open, fair, and transparent process. Given the high volume of questions, we are doing our best to respond to them in as timely a way as we can, and I would note that the session we had earlier this morning, a lot of questions have come in, so we'll do our best to manage all the different questions as they come in. Please bear with us as we work through them. I also wanted to remind you that the session here today is being recorded and will be available on our website for further viewing. Let me note a couple of things by way of context. First of all, to say that there is a commitment from Minister Paradis and the department to renew and deepen our engagement with partners, including new partners and Canadian civil society partners with whom we share 45 years of development cooperation history. The recent launch of our 4 new calls for proposals is a case in point. I am sure you are aware that Partnerships for Development Innovation branch has now 4 calls for proposals open for submissions. Let me list them. First one is the Volunteer Cooperation Program. The second one is the International Youth Internship Program. The third is the International Aboriginal Youth Internships Initiative. And finally, the African Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarships Fund in memory of the late Nelson Mandela. I would also like to draw your attention to the recent statement by the Prime Minister of the intention to launch a new call for proposals relating to maternal, newborn, and child health this September. As we move into these new calls, using updated processes and forms, we wanted to ensure that our partners are as up to date as possible on the process and tools, and that's why we're holding today's session. A couple of other comments. Some of you have asked, what is Partnerships for Development Innovation? And we wanted to note that this is the new name of the former CIDA, Canadian International Development Agency's Partnerships with Canadians branch, which of course is now part of the amalgamated Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development Canada. We intend to use call for proposals as our primary mechanism for identifying and assessing future projects in this branch. As I noted, the department will be deepening our engagement and consultation with civil society partners over the coming months. Stay tuned for updates on our website, including through speeches and news releases by the Minister. In conclusion, I hope that this has provided you with a little bit of a context for the session that we are doing today. I'm optimistic that we are entering a revitalized and creative period in our engagement with Canadian civil society. With your help and solid programming ideas, I think we can successfully demonstrate Canadian value added and the continued importance of civil society to Canada's contributions to international development. If anything I have said has sparked a question, I invite you to use the participate button on your screen and send it at any time. For those of you interested in participating in current or upcoming calls for proposals, I wish you the best of luck. I will now pass over to Marc Lusignan, who is the Director General of Grants, Contributions, and Contracting Management, who will speak to the application process and the form itself. Thank you very much.
And speak a little bit about the process and, more importantly, the application form. The new programming process was launched in January 2013. Central to the process is a new application form. It's available to applicants worldwide. It provides all of DFATD's requirements, and it treats all applicants equitably. Use this form to submit an unsolicited proposal at any time or when DFATD issues calls for proposals, as is the case today. All calls are open to multiple applicants. DFATD sets the high-level results and invites applicants to submit proposals that will contribute to those results. DFATD has minimum information requirements which all applicants must meet. The department will customize each call with particular requirements as if it is open only to a certain geographic area, example Canada, or any specific theme, for example maternal and child health. In terms of the minimum standard information, DFATD applies the same minimum standard of information for all applicants. Regardless of country, regardless of sector, all of your proposals have to meet these 9 minimum assessment criteria. These 9 minimum criteria also apply to any unsolicited proposals that you may submit from any country or at any time for any theme. The standard of information and the minimum assessment criteria. I'll walk through them quickly. The first is rationale for the initiative. The second, managing for results and responding to risks. The third is initiative plan. The fourth deals with environment. The fifth, gender equality. The sixth, governance. The seventh, sustainability of the results. The eighth, financial information. And 9, organizational ability relevant to the initiative. For different calls for proposals, you can expect the department to have additional assessment criteria which reflect the particular theme of the call. You still have to respond to all additional criteria, not just the minimum 9. The project design belongs to you. DFATD always completes the ultimate outcome level and has discretion to complete the intermediate outcome level. The applicant always has to complete remaining levels of the logic model. This is your project design. The application form will automatically take your data from the logic model and populate Table 2, Performance Measurement Framework, and Table 6, Budget by Activity. Clicking the plus sign allows you to add another outcome and activity, and another box will appear. Clicking the X sign allows you to remove an outcome or activity. The first page of the application form also has a page count indicator advising the applicant how many pages of content he or she has already entered. The first page of the application form explains the 25-page limit, which refers to the applicant's own entered data, not the text already printed in the template. The application form itself does not actually impose an automatic blockage on any part of the form, but it does provide a warning message. business tools for you. Annex 1 of the application form also provides a full list of relevant hyperlinks to the DFATD website. DFATD offers you a lot of resources on its website. You are encouraged to explore and use all of these tools and guidance notes for any proposal you submit to the department. A number of things applicants should note. You are encouraged to apply, but remember that submitting a proposal does not guarantee you will receive any funding. In a call for proposals, DFATD may not fund all proposals and could even cancel the call. You cannot submit concept papers or any draft versions of proposals. You have one opportunity to submit your final proposal. It is also important to note that you will not be reimbursed for any costs you incur while preparing or submitting your proposal. If you have further questions after this session, or if you are looking for more information, on the screen you will see a list of resources available to you. You can contact the department through the various different ways listed here. Applicants cannot contact individual DFATD officers with respect to any calls. If you submit a question through any of these channels, DFATD will not respond to individual queries about your specific proposal. If the question is general and would be of value to other applicants, then the department may publish a response on the Calls Frequently Asked Questions page on the website. I thank you very much, and will now turn over the questions to the panel, or turn the microphone over to the panel to answer questions, and Genevieve Brown. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So good afternoon, everybody. Let me first introduce the people sitting at the table. On my right is Monroe Pace, who's with the Partnership for Development Innovation Branch. And on my left is Annalisa Bonardi, and myself, Genevieve Brown. We are both with the Grants and Contributions Management Bureau. So bear with us, please. What we will be doing is receiving questions on the computers. We will be able to read the questions and then respond to them. And so we will manage the inflow of questions as they come and take turns in answering. So I think the first question, however, will go to Annalisa. So I will let Annalisa begin.
Start off. Okay. Thank you. So our first question refers to the budgets in the application form. The question is, could you please confirm that salary and benefits paid to the interns are to be included as other direct costs and not remuneration under employees based in Canada and on short-term assignment overseas? Indeed, the costs must be listed under Section 8, Table 5, under the budget line item, Other Direct Costs. These the other details related to these costs should be indicated in the notes column.
And I've got the next question, which was, will DFATD, that's our department, cover costs for the Centre for Intercultural Learning pre-departure and reintegration training as per previous years? The answer, it is the organization's responsibility to provide pre-departure and reintegration sessions. These costs can be requested as part of your proposal. Please check the call documentation to ensure that these costs are eligible.
So I have the next question. In the application form, can we add more annexes than those specifically listed in the application guidelines? Well, you could. Only the annexes that are required will be reviewed with the proposal, however.
And I have a similar question. In the application form, can we add more annexes than those specifically listed in the application guidelines? The answer, only the forms listed in the application form will be reviewed.
Okay. So we have another question here, again, budget related. Under direct costs, is staff responsible for managing the program permitted? Likewise, is travel of a program manager for monitoring visits permitted under direct costs? Or do these costs have to come out of the 12% overhead? And our answer is that the staff required to manage the program are permitted under direct costs, and as well as the travel for the staff to monitor the project. In order to look at the cost for the 12% overhead, please refer to the policy posted on the departmental website.
Okay, do you want me to take the next one, Monroe?
Sure.
So the question is, does DFATD, so does the department have ultimate outcomes, so this is referring to the logic model that's in the application form, relevant to specific programs for unsolicited proposals, or does the applying agency determine these? So the answer is that when it's an unsolicited proposal and you're using the form that is posted on the web, the applicant determines the ultimate outcomes. So review the country strategy and priority theme information that is available on the department website to help guide you in terms of what is the most appropriate for the proposal at that level for the logic model. Thanks.
I have another question. Is a call planned for the economic sector? And if so, when? Please keep checking our website for updates on future calls. And please ensure you are subscribed to the Call for Proposals RSS feed. The other thing we want to do is remind people that there are not going to be any call-specific questions answered through this session.
Okay. Maybe we can take some other questions unless...
Sure.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Can an applicant submit to more than one open call for proposal? The answer is yes. An applicant can apply to as many calls as they wish.
Okay, I might take one of the general questions. We have, of course, information that is already available to the public on the website in terms of some of the general questions. And we do manage these on a regular basis insofar as the department as a whole, but also there are general FAQs, the frequently asked questions that are available specific to calls, more specifically on the call pages and on the website for partnership. So one of the general questions that we have that we get often is, doesn't an organization, do they need to have an established partnership with a proposed local partner, or can it be a new partnership for this initiative? And the answer is an organization is eligible to apply for initiatives with local partners that include new or existing partnership arrangements. That is up to the partner, to the organization and the partners to determine.
I'll also read from some of the pre-received questions. Must a Canadian international organization register on Partners at Development before applying for funding in response to a call for proposals? The answer is yes. If any Canadian organization wishes to apply in response to a call, it must create and update its organizational profile through the Partners at Development portal.
Okay, I can take another one from some questions that were sent earlier on. What's meant by cost sharing? And cost sharing has to do with the nature and the relative size of the resources that the organization, both the organization and the department, will allocate and contribute to the initiative, the proposed initiative. So cost sharing criteria are used to establish the minimum contribution generally of the organization and a maximum allocation, a contribution by the department.
We've just received another one online. Our intent is to submit an application as part of a consortium of two organizations, with neither organization as the lead. How would we represent this on the application form, particularly with regards to the financial information? The answer is that one organization must submit as the lead unless the consortium is legally incorporated in Canada.
Okay, and while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, I can address another general question that we get with regards to the new process, which is basically why is the process the way it is? And it speaks to some of the pieces of the presentation that was given by Marc Lusignan. The standardized call for proposals process was designed to be transparent, and the idea that within a given time frame, all applicants had equal opportunity to apply for funding. So equal access to guidance, and all of the guidance material is now available on the website, and those references were also provided in the presentation. But the hyperlinks to all the guidance material that is referred to in the application form, that speaks to each of the sections of the application form, the links are found in Annex 1 of the application, and that can lead you to all the different parts of the website that will give you the information necessary to know what is required for each of those sections. The idea being that now everybody has equal opportunity to apply for funding in terms of the calls for proposal process and the other processes.
And we've got another online question. Does a subcontractor have to be Canadian, or are international organizations also eligible? The answer is no, the subcontractor does not need to be Canadian.
I can take another question that's just come in. What is the word count for paragraphs? So, good question, thank you. We did address a little bit of the way that the page limit is set on the form. So there isn't actually a set word count for paragraphs. In some of the sections, it does tell you what the maximum ask is for describing what is necessary in that section. But in the way that the form works, it's a character count in terms of each character that is put in by the applicant. So, for example, in the logic model, it's on one page and you fill it out, but it doesn't count as one page. The system, there's a technological counting that's happening in the background so that each of the characters is counted to total what is approximately equivalent to 25 pages, which is a large margin to be able to fill in the sections according to what's been asked and the guidelines that are provided. So thank you.
I can take another pre-submitted question. Does the deadline for submission require a full proposal, or can a concept paper be submitted by the deadline followed by a full proposal at a later date? The answer is that no. In order for the department to assess your proposal efficiently and to provide clear guidance and consistent access to all applicants, the department does not accept concept papers for review. We only assess complete applications that meet all the requirements as detailed in the application form.
Okay, I might take another question right away, which is linked to the question that I just had and the answer that was given. The question is, again, what is included in the page limit for the application form? For example, are the logic model, risk register, and budget considered to be included within the limit? So again, yes, insofar as the content that is entered by the applicant in the application form is counted within the page count. And as I just explained, the page counter is actually counting the characters and not the page in terms of the logic model as one page or the risk register as one page. It's simply the amount of text that you have entered and is counted per character in terms of what is an average character count per page, and that's rolled up then in terms of the page count. And at the front of the document, you will see the counter in terms of the page count that does show how much you've entered. So you'll see that insofar as entering the logic model, it won't have gone to 1 or 2 or 3 pages. It would be relative to the amount of information, the characters that you've actually put into the table.
I've got another question. What is the expected standard of service for proposal review following the submission deadlines? The answer is that the amount of time it takes the department to review the proposal, all the proposals, depends on the number of proposals received.
I can take one of the general questions if you want. Well, so another general question that we get in terms of the process is, why does it take so long to get an answer? Now, in the calls for proposal process, the idea is that it's a comparative process that allows programs to compare across all of the proposals that have been received and judge which ones are best fit. It also means that in order to thoroughly assess each application on the basis of its own merit and then allow for that comparison for a relative best fit, there is time for that process to be undertaken, but then everybody is informed of the decision at the same time, so there isn't any guessing or any misinformation in terms of whether you may or may not be approved. All of the applicants all the applicants are informed at the same time, so everyone has the same information in terms of the calls process. Oh, another one? Yep. Okay. What's the question? Unsolicited proposal, please define. Oh, okay. So on the website, again, one of the references that's in the presentation you'll be able to refer to, if you go to the main web page of the department and you scroll down a little bit, there is a link that's called Funding for Development. I'm just trying to remember the name of the link. If you click on Funding for Development, that will take you to the page where you have all of the information about how to apply. One of the ways that you can apply is through an unsolicited proposal. And by definition, in the way that we've called it, it means that it hasn't been a call for proposal where we're requesting proposals about a particular initiative or a particular type of initiative. And it isn't something that is with a particular partner in a given circumstance. It is something that the partner is sending in to ask for funding for a particular activity in particular sectors or countries or whatever, and it's fairly wide open. It's open all year round. There isn't an opening and close date like on a call for proposal. It's the mechanism by which partners can come and request for funding at any given point in time.
I've got another question here. At any given time, how many projects can a civil society organization or university have with DFATD funding, or the department's funding? The answer is that there is no limit on the number of projects a civil society organization or a university can have.
So I have another question that I can take. Do DFATD field staff have input at any level of the vetting process? The answer is that in terms of how the assessment process works in any given program, the field staff would certainly be consulted, particularly in a geographic program, for example, on an unsolicited proposal that directly affects that country. The staff in the field are, of course, consulted because they're in the position to speak to the realities on the ground. So yes, but that isn't something that is predetermined in the process. That's part of how the program manages, how they determine the assessment process and what is best fit according to the priorities and strategies of that country.
I can take one of the
Sure.
determined. We had a question about supporting materials required to demonstrate eligibility. And very simply, all supporting documentation required to clearly demonstrate an applicant's eligibility is listed in the eligibility section of the call for proposals application form. So refer to that and you'll have everything, declarations, everything that's required.
Okay, so I think this is a follow-up question to what I was just speaking to. Mm-hmm. The question is, which application do you use for unsolicited proposals? So for unsolicited proposals, that is there is a form that is posted on the website specifically for unsolicited proposals. If you go to the main page and again you click on the Apply for Funding page, you will get the form that is posted there that is available to the public. Thanks.
I have some more questions here as well. Will the department give preference to old or new partners when selecting successful proposals? The answer is that no preference will be given to any partner. Potential partners will be assessed on the merit of their proposals. Secondly, can proposals and annexes be submitted in a combination of English and French? For example, is it acceptable to submit country annexes and local partner information forms in either French or English, or both, according to the country's preferred language? The answer is yes. Proposals, including annexes, can be submitted in English or French, or a combination of both official languages.
So I can take one of the questions, again, from some of the frequently asked questions that we get. Does an organization, oh no, sorry, that's one I already did. This one, must the independent evaluation, so what's requested in section 9.4 of the application form, which is downloaded, must it be related to the 3 examples that are given above in the form, or can the evaluation concern another project? What must we do if our organization has had no independent evaluation? So the independent evaluation that is in section 9.4 does not need to be related to the examples don't need to be related to the current request in the proposal, and the evaluations are asked for if they exist, because it does allow for additional information in terms of evaluating capacity and previous experience, but that's simply if they are available.
Okay, so this must be a follow-on from another question. So the question is, if an application was submitted by a consortium and the application was accepted by DFATD, would both organizations be able to sign the agreement or the contract? The answer is that both organizations can sign the agreement. The preference by the department is that the lead organization would sign that agreement with DFATD. I've
got another question. What is meant by proof of partnership for local partnerships? Is there preference for a particular document? For an example, a memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement? And the answer is, you should provide proof in the form of an attestation from the local partner. Email, fax, or any form of document exchange between the Canadian organization and the developing country partner organization. A memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement, they're both acceptable.
Just looking through the questions here to find the one that we've answered and not.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Here's one for me then. Do all of the old rules under CETA apply to the new department? Are the rules the same? So if I understand the question of rules to be the directives and policies that applied to how the grants and contributions decisions were taken, then the directives and policies, which apply to the application form are linked to the application form, and where they say CETA, they still stand because those are still the relevant policies and directives that apply to development programming. So as mentioned in the form, many of these still refer to CETA, but they are still in effect. It's a good question.
I have one that was down below here. The question is, does year one of the funding that could be granted to an organization I guess fall in fiscal year 2014-15 or fiscal year 2015-16? Our answer, if we've understood the question correctly, it will depend on the organization's own fiscal year and the time of the year the funding is received by the organization. If the question is not answered because for whatever reason it's not been interpreted the way that you've wanted, please rephrase and we will provide an answer in writing and it'll be posted following the session.
So it looks like we've answered most of the ones that have come in so far. I might just...
Do you have this one? Yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So why don't we speak to... I mean, this is kind of a technical question. With a technical answer, but we have gotten it a couple of times, so some of you may find it relevant. It's in having difficulty in downloading the application form. So if the application form will not load, and currently using the most recent version of Adobe, what can you do? And this speaks more to which system you're on, because what we recommend is try using the latest version of Internet Explorer. The problem being simply that with Google Chrome, the default settings don't allow you to open Adobe. It opens something else in default. So what we either recommend is to try to use Internet Explorer or to right-click on the form and save as, save it to your computer, and then open it again, because in that case it will open in Adobe. That's something about how the systems speak to each other and something we weren't able necessarily to fix because it depends on what you're using when you try to open the form. Another one for me? Yeah. Okay. So the question, in the organization ability relevant to the initiative section of the form. Okay, so in the organization ability relevant to the initiative section of the form, must we provide information on all members of a consortium application or just the lead organization? So, information on the relevant experience of the various members of a consortium that they're bringing to a particular initiative is relevant and should be provided in this section. But keep in mind that the proposal, the lead organization is the organization that will be evaluated in terms of how they meet each of the 9 basic criteria of the form.
I have another one. Are calls for proposals open to private sector companies as well? And the answer, yes, call for proposals are open to the private sector. However, for the calls that are currently open, private sector cannot profit from these initiatives.
That's one that I just did, right? Okay. Do you have a question you want to speak to?
Have we already... Did we already answer that?
No, you could do that one. Yeah.
I think there's one question we've had that may resemble one of the first ones that Monroe answered. The question is, can an international organization submit a proposal? The answer is no. Currently, lead organizations for the calls must be Canadian and legally incorporated, and their main place of business has to be in Canada. However, the Canadian organizations may form partnerships with international organizations or other partners.
Okay, I have another question here. Is there a list of eligible countries for unsolicited proposals, or can it be submitted for any developing country? So the answer is that the countries in which the department operates, where we have active development programs, is available on the website, especially the countries in which the Canadian aid is focused. So I would invite you to consult the website to get a better sense of where some of the focus for development programming is currently.
I have one here. Can the in-kind partner contribution be used to match DFATD's funds? The DFATD contribution, I'm understanding. Example, office rental vehicles, staff time, and the answer is no. Eligible expenses cannot be matched by two different sources of funding, in this case, the partner and the department. Okay.
Okay, I have another question. What criteria are used to evaluate unsolicited proposals compared to those for proposals in a call for proposal process? So the basic 9 criteria that were set out when Marc Lusignan did the presentation on the application form, those 9 criteria are assessed in all cases. Those are the minimum that must be met for all proposals to receive funding from the department. So in an unsolicited proposal context, those are the basic 9 because we don't tailor the unsolicited proposal form to a particular priority because that's coming in ad hoc from partners. So the difference between that and a calls for proposals is the information that's on the front page of a call that specifies what the target is for that particular call. And so keep in mind when you're filling out your application form that you reference, for your own reference, that you check the call page to make sure that you have met the criteria of that particular call. And in a broader sense, if you're interested in the 9 criteria, the basic criteria, information about it, etc., then I would invite you to consult the website again, and particularly the Apply for Funding page, where you will have the business tools and other information that was provided in the presentation.
I have another question here. Okay. The question is, if we are contributing a salaried position to the initiative, would this be considered an in-kind or cash contribution? And the answer is a cash contribution.
I have another question. Is there a limit of 5 outputs allowed within the logic model? And the answer is yes, 5 outputs for each for immediate outcomes. So I always confuse myself between the intermediate and immediate. So you can, yes, it is a limit of 5, and it's 5 per immediate outcome.
I have another question that was previously submitted. What supporting materials are required to demonstrate eligibility? And the answer is that all supporting documentation required for eligibility is clearly listed in the eligibility section of the Call for Proposals application form.
So we can do this one here.
Is that a new one for me, or is that the one I just answered?
I think it was similar.
I think we have one here that we haven't dealt with yet that we can do. So,
Yeah. Okay.
so this one here.
Yeah.
Did you want to pick that up? Okay. So we have one question that's related to the application form. The question is, for organizations applying in consortiums, the application form does not allow for entry of more than one organization's financial, resource capacity, and financial independence. Could DFATD please provide guidance on how that information should be presented for all the consortium members? The application form requires this financial resource capacity and independence information for the legal entity applying, so essentially the lead applicant. If the consortium does not have its own legal status, the lead organization should be the one to apply and submit the required information. The details about the expertise and the information that's required for each consortium member is found in the application form in section 9.1 and I believe 9.3. Thank you.
I have a general question that I can speak to then too. The question comes to the completeness of the application. So is there a checklist to ensure the application is complete to make sure that everything is submitted? Because once submitted, it is evaluated and judged on eligibility at that point in time. So yes, the application form does contain detailed instructions as well as a checklist that can help you in completing the form. So please make sure before submitting the application that you've met all the information requirements that are indicated. So be sure to include, of course, the completed application form, but also letter of incorporation or proof of the organization's legal status, 2 financial statements, which help us do part of the assessment, which is related to fiduciary risk, the declaration regarding outstanding debts due to Her Majesty, and the final one is, the anti-corruption declaration. So those are all documents that are required in order to move from eligibility to the assessment of the proposal.
I've got another question. Will the call for proposals in September provide funding for public relation components of projects? The answer is each call for proposals is different. Please consult the call for proposal application and guidelines for eligible activities, obviously when that document is made public in the fall.
So I have another question. The question is, I have heard several times mentions of unsolicited proposals. Is there any guidance on the scope of such a proposal, multi-year, budget limits, etc.? I understand that such a proposal would still have to align with DFATD priorities. So yes, of course, that is correct. But then there is no limit on year or budget. What is evaluated, of course, is how realistic the budget ask is with regards to the activities proposed and the results that are meant to be achieved. And that said, there is a limitation on the amount of funding available for any given program in terms of responding to unsolicited proposals. And the proposal may be perfect, but there just may not be any funding. So that is one of the realities. There may not be any funding available, but yes, of course, in terms of what you are trying to achieve, there isn't a limit set on that for unsolicited. Thanks. All right. So I can do another one from this list. Okay, so can we submit our proposal under our own format? I think we've spoken to that, but there are still questions about additional information provided or if it isn't sufficient space. So just to respond to that, because it is a fairly common question, it's that no, with the launch of the new process in January 2013, we did establish the application form, which sets out the basic criteria that need to be evaluated to be able to recommend a proposal for funding. And so given that, the proposals must follow the application guidelines, including the use of the application form, which is posted on the website. We will not consider submissions or proposals that come in any other format. Another one for me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can unsolicited proposals be submitted by organizations not registered in Canada? Yes. So we do work with partners all over the world. We just need to have proof of legal status.
So there's one for you.
Okay. So the question is, can construction be included under an unsolicited proposal and what percentage? Yes, it can be included. But again, it's the prerogative of the department, the program, assessing the proposal, whether it can be accepted or not. And there are certain limitations on the construction, the portion of the construction relative to the other, to the direct costs that will be assessed by the programs and by the team.
I have another question that was pre-submitted. Will we have to provide any more information after submitting the application form and any other necessary documentation? The answer is that the information required to assess your proposal is part of the application package. If successful, the department will ask you to provide further information to help fulfill contractual obligations and the department's various reporting obligations. For example, publishing project information to the International Aid Transparency Initiative Registry. The department may also ask you to provide further information to enable a fiduciary risk assessment, normally conducted at the recipient and project levels. And I have another one online. At the end of the call, does the department release the number of received proposals as well as the number of granted proposals? The answer is yes. At the end of the process, the department will release the number of proposals received and those which have been funded.
I can maybe take another question from our list while we're waiting for more questions to come in. So how can we get clarification on the new application form? I think we've spoken to this a little bit, But the application form itself contains a great deal of guidance for each section. Explains what needs to be addressed in the response for that section. But then again, all of the links to the relevant information exist in the form as well, and they are compiled in Annex 1. So I would encourage you to look at the website for further information, and particularly the section on business tools, which just points you to all the right places in order to have full information to be able to complete the form. We good? I can do another one.
How about this one?
Go ahead, yeah.
For organizations applying in consortiums, the application form does not allow for entry of more than one organization's financial resource capacity and financial independence. Could the department please provide guidance on how that information should be presented for all consortium members? The application form requires financial resource capacity and financial independence for the legal entity that's applying. If the consortium does not have its own legal status, the lead organization should apply and submit the required financial information. Details about the expertise that each consortium member brings to the initiative should be included in Section 9.1, the profile of the organization, and in Section 9.3, the relevant applicant experience.
Well, I can do one more from here, and I think there's a couple questions coming in. But
Yeah.
So another question that's relevant to some of the other questions that have been asked today: do local partner organizations have to be based solely in the specific developing country, or can they operate there but have their headquarters elsewhere? So this is with regards with how you're partnering with a local organization. So the local partner organization does not have to have the headquarters in the country where they will be implementing the initiative or locate their operations exclusively in one country. They can be headquartered in another country and be operating there.
And I have another online question. Can an application include different states in a country, for example, India, for two different non-governmental organizations? The answer is that each call is different. Please consult the application form guidelines and the eligible country list for each call.
I'm going to pass on to, move on to another popular question. We're just getting a few more in now. This one relates to the overhead rate applied to international applicants. So for international organization, DFATD does apply an overhead rate, but it's on a case-by-case basis. It's negotiated. And negotiations on the overhead rate would generally take place during the negotiation of the contribution agreement.
Okay. Yep, I have a question that's just come in. So how large, how large can proposals be, and for how many years if unsolicited? Are there any limits? And so I'm not certain if this is with regards to the page limit or the budget or years, so I'll speak to both. I did speak to this just a few minutes ago, but there is no limit on the budget for the number of years for an unsolicited proposal, but it must be realistic and must be aligned with the departmental priorities. There may not be funding available in any given year to respond to unsolicited proposals, so that's part of the reality. But then the page limit, if that's what you're speaking to, is at the front of the application form, and there is a counter which allows you to look at the page limit, and for unsolicited proposals it is 25 pages.
Another question here that just came in. Can partners add a local partner after the signing of the agreement? And say we submit an application and later decide to collaborate with a local partner to increase success of the outcomes. Is this feasible? And the answer is yes. It is feasible. You can add a local partner after signing an agreement. However, naturally it would be in consultation and through an approval process with the department.
About the application form. So is the application form the same for geographic programs and for Partnership for Development Innovation? So the application form is the same across the department for development programming. That was part of the process for what was launched in January 2013. There is more transparency about the process overall. The department on the development portfolio operates the same across the board. So yes, it is the same application form. What's different is that the base criteria, as I've spoken to, remain the same in the context of a call, but there could be specific additional specific items that are sought in the context of a call that are added to the application form. And that's why in the context of a call, it's important to check the call page and make sure that you are able to account for those specificities that are added.
Okay, I have another one coming in. The question is, if approved, do we need to comply with the government's fiscal year start and end dates, March to April, or can we choose when to begin? And the answer is, you have your choice. The fiscal year of the organization, the fiscal year of the department, or the anniversary date of the agreement.
I have another online question. Will the department provide feedback on refused proposals? And the answer is that yes, the department will provide key points in a letter to applicants that were not selected for funding.
I think we've responded to those questions, right? Trying to keep track of the ones we've answered already.
That's right.
So I can take one of our general questions if you like. This is one that we get fairly regularly as well, but can we submit several proposals for different projects in different countries, or can we resubmit a proposal, which is a subsequent question along the same lines, if one is refused? So for the first instance, you're at liberty to determine how many unsolicited proposals you may submit to the department, for which countries, for how much and what frequency. The department will consider each application separately, regardless if you have submitted a proposal for something else. The submission to the department of an application for funding does not mean, of course, that the department is able to do so. In terms of a rejection and resubmitting, that is, of course, possible, and again, it is determined by the applicant. What is necessary is simply to ensure that you have fully met the requirements that are set out in the application form, so that we can determine that in terms of the assessment period for when we look at the proposal, that each of the 9 criteria have been met.
Yeah,
one from me here. Okay. So the question is, our organization has blind and low vision employees. Are all forms and information fully accessible? That's a great question. So yes, the application form for unsolicited proposals and all of the other forms do comply with Government of Canada Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So they are WCAG compliant, and they can be read by screen readers. So that was one of the things that we did go through when we were posting these application forms. Thanks, that's a good question.
I think we've come to the end of that list.
Okay. I can try this one. This is relevant from a few months ago, well, because we just posted a new version of the application form at the beginning of the calendar year, and it will happen again as we continuously improve and take into account feedback that we get on the application form. So this question that we've gotten a few times, if we started working on an application a few months ago, but we now see a different version of the form on the website, can we still submit our application using the older template, or do we have to use the new form? So we do make periodic updates. We do try to do so in an extremely transparent fashion, because we understand that working on one version and then having to switch can be frustrating for partners. So please note that we did post a new form as of January 23rd, and that we do advise you use the newest version of the form. There is a possibility that if you use an older version, there may be information that is now required in terms of assessing the proposal that is now missing. So that's just a note. We've got more coming in. Let me see. Yeah. Have we responded to this one?
No.
What?
Indirectly.
Yeah,
I think
indirectly,
we've had similar questions, so I can take that one. Okay. So the question that we've had recently is, can organizations from outside Canada apply for funding? And can organizations from a developed country, example, the European Union, United States, apply for funding? Organizations worldwide can apply for funding. I think Geneviève mentioned that earlier, through our DFATD website. International non-governmental organizations from any country can submit unsolicited proposals for funding, so long as they meet the eligibility requirements as published in the application form. Applicants also have to demonstrate proof of their legal and financial standing as per the home country's laws or as per the laws of Canada. So at the end of the day, we've mentioned that several times. It's the eligibility requirements that are critical.
So, yeah, thank you. And I think we're getting to the end of the questions here. I think we answered that one. So let me see what else could be relevant.
This one here.
Yeah, so it's a well, that one's a follow-up to what
Yeah.
Annalisa was just speaking to. The follow-up question on that is, as an international organization, do we need a Canadian partner before we can apply, or do we need a local partner before we apply? So before answering this question, I would just reiterate that in the context of a calls for proposal process, there might be something that is specific in terms of this question that is on the calls page. So I would recommend looking at the calls page. That's where you'll find the information most relevant to the call. But as a general rule, international non-governmental organizations can submit an unsolicited proposal for funding so long as they meet the posted eligibility requirements. So this is a little bit what Annalisa was speaking to. They can form partnerships with Canadian and or local non-governmental organizations as they so choose.
Okay, well, we're out of time and we must bring this session to a close. Thank you for your active participation and for your questions. We are glad to see that this webcast sparked a high level of interest. As was mentioned by Mr. Sampson, for those questions we have not answered, we will be drafting answers and posting them to our website. We will also post those that we have answered here today, so keep an eye out for our updates. If others in your organization were not able to attend today's session, please note that the recording of this webcast will be made available shortly on the website. I would like to remind you that if you have specific questions pertaining to any of the current calls, please submit them through the channels noted in the individual web page for that specific call. We are posting the question and answers for all to see. We look forward to receiving your most innovative solution to global development challenges in the proposals some of you will no doubt be submitting. We wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.